So the Unity Cup has come and gone. And honestly, I think there's a very fun conversation. We had one on our semifinal, team of the semifinals. And we'll kind of get to it a little bit later. But let's talk about the games that happened today. Third place, Ghana comprehensively over Trinidad 4-0. This game was not close. Trinidad had moments where they definitely pushed. But this game was Ghana's fully involved, fully won, and truly just dominant in their end. It's 4-0, ends up with goals from Jordan Ayew in the 6th minute, Razak Simpson in the 12th minute, Prasheni in the 41st minute, and then Ajikam in the 58th minute. And honestly, it could have been much worse. And this was a game I felt that Ghana was going to win. With due all respect to the teams and the levels that were here, I felt Trinidad was the weakest of the sides, but I think there's still good things Trinidad could take from the side, from this game, especially. Right, you have a player like Rio Cardines who didn't feature in the starting 11 here. However, yeah, didn't feature in the starting 11 here, but you definitely saw the potential of him in the first game. I think that's very exciting in terms of what he could bring. And I think I like that from when it comes to what from Trinidad could possibly build out of. They went with a more of a 4-5-1, more in the midfield. And yes, though Ghana ran through them, it wasn't too close. I think ultimately you saw some players, right? Whether you want to say Dante Gilbert showed well, or Rio Cardine showed well. I think there are pieces if you look at it from the Ghanaian perspective. I mean, Richie really showing his worth. Christopher Bonsuba again having a great first half, great game as well. I think those players really showing what they could do. And then you look in the midfield. Francis playing well. As you come gets a goal. Suleimana well. Fusini, another goal as well. You see the pieces of what Ghana could start to bring. A good showing from Fuchs Stefanijan as well in his 30-minute cameo. I think he really did well. Brandon Thomas Asante, again, well-worked game. But this was comprehensively Ghana's to win, and they did. So you have that. That's your first matchup. Ghana gets past that. And I think those players that I mentioned, right, I think they did a good job to really showcase what they could do and what their value is for the national team moving. When you get to the final game, I think that's the more fascinating one. And Jamaica falling to Nigerian penalties, 5-4, but then 2-2 after the game. I'm gonna put on my CONCACAF hat here. I know this version of Jamaica as a side I feel has always been capable of having. And I've been one who's been frustrated with McLaren in terms of I think how he plays. Now maybe it's less coaching, maybe it's more personnel. But you definitely see something in terms of how they were. I think the best thing I saw about this scene was how they responded almost immediately. They responded after every goal. I mean, where do you start other than starting with Ronaldo Cephas? And Cephas has been a name that, for me, I had issues with him, and I think this tournament for me really won me over to him a little bit more. There's a comparison I'm gonna make from on a CONCACAF level, which I was starting to inch towards too, both because I felt that's where they should play, but I can understand there, and I'm gonna go there in a minute. But I think Ronaldo Cephas did a very good job in terms of maximizing the time, and that was a question I had for him. I asked, could he or could they maximize the opportunities they had? And I mean, we questioned his ability to send some good crosses into the box. two beautiful assists in this game. We also questioned his decision making in the final third. Other than getting fought off the ball a couple times, where you wish maybe he may get rid of the ball a little bit sooner, you saw the speed on display. You saw Burrell helping defend. You saw Jamaica to play how McLaren wanted them to play, but also be able to actually be dangerous on the counter. If that's what McLaren's wanting to do, I think this is where I'll come to the point where I'll backtrack a bit and say, if this is how McLaren wants to play and they can be this effective that way, then by all means do that. But you, as an outsider, you can get excited and say, okay, cool. What happens if you swap, say, like a Burrell, a Cephas, and a Dixon with Damari Gray, and then others, and then that gets to the question of the unit here. Now, I don't want to diminish what Jamaica did here, but these are two friendlies, right? And they're gonna have to find a way to translate that over to World Cup qualifiers. But Ronaldo Cephas, I think, to me, definitely won me over. To me, he reminds me a lot of a player like Jacob Schaffelberg for Canada, where I look at Schaffelberg and say, a very direct player. I think you cannot go wrong with him, especially going through. And my thought on him is always Schaffelberg is best case scenario. He's a player that goes full speed. He goes pedal to the metal. He's a gas player. His final third delivery keeps on improving. And worst case scenario, if a team finds that out, you play him for a half and you get him off. Now, a lot of people will look at me and say, I'm a little bit low on Schaffelberg. I don't know if he reads the game well always, and that's where my one drawback on the player is. But you can definitely see the comparisons where you have a player who's direct, plays out on the flank, and can really cause opposing defenders problems just with their pace. But you almost need, not perfect conditions, but you need it to be in a situation where you can actually be effective. And if it's not, you better have a solid plan B. Which is why I think if you look at Jamaica, if you try to project that, I understand the calls to say, hey, maybe a player like Cephas should start on the bench because you have better established players, better high-ranking players. And then maybe if it's not working at halftime, you make the switch sooner. I think that will be the interesting conversation. I think it's fair either way. The midfield again Nigeria was trying to push, but again, the thing that I liked from what Jamaica did was they were able to push back. They answered nearly immediately. You saw the plan very much felt get Cephas into space and he'll create something, and he did that in spades for them. Dixon scores for Jamaica, answering Moses Simon, and then when Chukwueze scores again in the 53rd minute, 10 minutes later, Cephas with another great delivery. John Russell puts it away 2-2. We go to penalties. Only Atkinson misses his for Jamaica, and that's ultimately the difference as Uche scores, and that's where you have it. When you look at Nigeria, Chukwueze did what he did. Desers, I think, played well. Moses did well. Ndidi had some opportunities to do things. Onyeka was fine. I think it's Desers to me is the conversation, right? And I said this in the past video. If you are Eric Shell, are you using him as a message to your nines? Because right now, he moved well, he pressured well. I don't think there's a reason not to bring him up. But I think it's the perfect player to bring up if you're trying to send a message to your nines and saying, hey, we need more from you. He gave us something. We need more overall. Now, ultimately, they're going to have to figure out what their midfield is going to do. They'll have to figure out their defense. We saw Sodi struggle with Ronaldo Cephas. Now, again, Cephas has opened a lot of eyes, won me over. But you see that problem within the transition. That was something that I'm a little bit concerned with Nigeria. They still ultimately get the win. Congratulations to them on winning their third straight Unity Cup. But for me, that defense, can they find other answers now? When I did like what I saw out of Felix Agu. I think he certainly proved himself well. played very well, I think. And if that's an option as a defender, that could start to stabilize things, especially when you look at Nigeria's full squad a little bit moving forward. But overall, Nigeria gets the win. Jamaica, man, if you guys can give us this a little bit more consistently, I think that'll be great. Yeah, I think it comes down to the conference. I don't want to go straight to is it names versus cohesion, but it's if this is how McLaren wants to play, does he have the buy-in from the players to play that way? Because not every coach can get that out of their team. Not every not every player wants to sit back and counter and attack. That's my biggest criticism with him. I don't think he needs to do that often. I think he has a player who can play that way. But does he have the buy-in from maybe the top players to do so? If he does, that could be great. But if they don't have the ability to do so, that becomes a problem. Again, also with Jamaica, the curious side for me is you don't have Antonio probably until the Gold Cup. That's my assessment. So are they going to continue to run with Cephas and Dixon up top? Are you going to put Demarai Gray there? Are you putting Leon Bailey hoping he plays? Does Shamar Nicholson become an option? These are all interesting, fascinating conversations. But as always, you guys let me know in the bottom. Congratulations again, Nigeria. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right here.